Hey, it's Soleil, and this is episode 572 of the Orange Pill Investor. And today I want to talk about how I believe that BIP-110 is consistent with gray man philosophy, which is all about reducing your exposure to attack. And one of the things that the core people have said was their reasoning for blowing out op return was screw it, spam can't be stopped completely 100% because this is programmable money and clever developers can, or hackers, whatever you want to call them, can figure out ways to squeeze scripts into different places. And they just weren't interested in the cat and mouse game of trying to outsmart them or be responding to these attacks. And that kind of speaks to laziness, like from an obvious perspective. But I want to talk about how a soft fork in general is decentralizing, right? Every time you expand Bitcoin and you say, okay, we're going to add this function, this feature to the protocol, you are expanding the attack surface. Every time you add a line of code, you add risk for a bug. And every time you add more code and more features, that just gives hackers or exploiters one more attack surface to exploit. So adding features, always a centralizing effect. Removing features, pruning features, removing lines of code that aren't necessary is always going to be a decentralizing force. And so what, BIP-110 is removing certain methods that spammers, parasites, are using to attack the network and extract value. And the way that I look at this is from a libertarian perspective, and I guess it kind of seems it never ceases to amaze me that when I talk to a Bitcoiner that doesn't really view Bitcoin as a rejection of the control system is kind of weird. But apparently there are people who don't understand that that governments and the Fed are rent seekers, right? They're trying to extract value without providing value. It's just predatory. It's just control. And Bitcoin is a rejection of that and is imposing the free market on the world. And so I think it's always going to be, just from my gut reaction, it's always going to be supportive of not pure ossification, because that's, as far as I can tell, that's literally impossible because the code isn't even stable, right, itself. So you're going to have to rejigger the code at least a little bit to keep it going and make sure it's keeping up with technology. But in general, if someone says, hey, should we add this feature so that Bitcoin can do A, B, C, or X, Y, Z, my gut reaction is immediately going to be no. I don't need Bitcoin to do anything else but be money. So if you go and you listen to Robert Breedlove's What is Money podcast, and you listen to him list off the different attributes of money, the immutability, recognizability, all of these different things. If it's not in that list, I don't need Bitcoin to do it, because all it's doing is just walking around with a gold chain around your neck in a dark alley somewhere. And that just doesn't make any sense. So Uh, do I also recognize the hypocrisy of that, of me being dumb enough to put my face on the internet and not remaining completely anonymous? Yeah, I might take that one back if I had the chance. Um, and so what I would say to Core is that even if I took you at your word that you weren't interested in this cat and mouse game, then why would you blow out op return, and why would you add more and more arbitrary data use cases and expand that attack vector and give yourself more things to fight and more things to combat? So if you don't even have the resources to maintain the current code and play this cat and mouse game with spam, why add more features? Like, just stop adding bullshit to the protocol itself. If you're already admitting that you don't have enough resources to play the cat and mouse game, then stop expanding the attack surface at all, right? You can't tell me, hey, we can't afford to fight spam, but also we're going to add this feature. Like, that doesn't fucking jive to me. You can't argue both of those things, because you're admitting that this new bell and whistle that you want to add is something that you are willing to maintain. Every single thing that you add to the code, every line of code, has to be maintained and defended forever, or until someone gets pissed off and and creates a soft fork, rugging the changes that you put in. And so that's what I see BIP-110 as, is Bitcoin getting a little bit too flamboyant and flashing, being a little too flashy in public, and inviting spammers and parasites into the network. And then BIP-110 is saying, nah, we're going to eliminate this risk of attack. And just in general, in principle, I'm always going to lean into that direction. Yeah, so without going too far into the left field, I think that's all that I wanted to say about that one. What's up, AB? And so we do have a little bit of movement in the market. I think everyone was like, oh, we're so back, right? We were so back 2 days ago. Everybody thought that we were hitting 70 on the way to 80 or something, I guess. And then, Bitcoin just does whatever the hell it wants to do. I try not to make too many short-term predictions, but it really wouldn't surprise me if we just get hopefully not a lot more of this, but actually that wouldn't surprise me as well. But a bunch of this chop, I would love to just call the bottom, but with tariff talks and the controversy of spam and BIP-110, and will there be a soft fork in response to the BIP-110 soft fork? And then if that rejection fails, will the spammers hard fork it? There's a whole lot of I almost call it FUD, but FUD is dismissive as something that's a nothing burger that doesn't even need to be worried about. Like, some FUD needs to be considered, but not in an emotional, panicky way, which was one of Hodelanot's criticisms of some of the BIP-110 support, was that it was like the sky's falling kind of thing, and you have to hurry up and support this or Bitcoin keels over and dies. And I get that a little bit. There's a little bit of fear mongering, but it doesn't necessarily mean that all FUD is the worst kind of FUD that just doesn't need to be addressed at all. Like, quantum FUD is overblown, but in the back of my mind, I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm glad that they're at least listening to this and devs are thinking about it. Um, yeah, so for my personal account is I can't risk Bitcoin crashing to 40 or 50 and taking strategy with it, and then I don't have enough capital to generate enough premium to keep paying my bills. So for the short term, for me personally, with my situation, is I'm going to continue to be extremely aggressive with my strikes. This is right on target, and I'll probably continue to do this at least until my margin use is wiped out. Once I'm unass all this margin, then fears of being completely, destroyed are gone, and I can start being a little bit more upside forward or upside centric in my positions. And if BIP-110 gets over 10% of nodes, that would be bullish for me. And so I think BIP-110 will activate in late August now. I think it was going to be early September at first. And so if we think about the market being, at least about 6 months forward looking, we know a resolution to this will be by, September. And if we've got close to 10% of BIP-110 nodes by then, I guess the market starts sniffing out that this resolution is coming one way or another. That could potentially build a little bit of confidence. The other thing is that, the U.S. midterms will be in November. So maybe they have to start pumping the market 6 months before that. So that would put us at, May. No, not financial advice, but that's why I'm not terribly worried about selling these pretty aggressive covered calls over the next month, maybe even 3 months, because I don't really see a lot of the reasons for the FUD to be dispelled in the next couple of months, right? And the people who need the market to be pumped for November, it only has to happen within the last few months before the election. But even that may backfire, right? There's always unintended consequences. And with, with fucking Bondi out there talking about the Dow's over 50,000, like that soundbite right there could, if the market starts pumping, that could actually be reframed as a negative for the current administration, because okay, the S&P 500 is pumping, but at whose expense? Like a giant freaking pedo ring, like is that what our number go up technology, is that what it's worth? Will we pay any price just for number go up tech to pump our bags? That could totally backfire, and who knows. So this may end up being completely wrong. Strategy could pump to 250 in 2 weeks, and all of these could get wrecked, and I'd have the bunch of stuff getting called away. But whichever shares I would still be retaining would be capturing twice as much premium anyway, because I'd be selling at the 250 strikes. I'd be selling at the money 250s anyway. So even that doesn't really bother me. For me personally, the only real threat is the number going down. So me limiting my upside at these numbers, even though I'm hoping this is the bottom, that's not really a risk for me personally. So everybody has to weigh their own, finances. And if you've got a job and you can just live off of that, you can totally bag hold on these. Nobody's. I sell covered calls in every environment, but if you think this is the bottom, then yeah, don't sell covered calls. I think that's the bottom line. Yeah, so there's plenty of extrinsic value in here left. This is like 1.5% for a week. And when I say 1.5%, I mean 1.5% of the current price. So I will just watch these for the rest of the week. And same with this one. It's been on for 11 days, but still plenty of extrinsic value left. And when I say plenty, I mean like it's more than half of what I sold it for. So this is a no-brainer to hold. Poor man's covered call. So this one only has 19 days left on it. Let me reshare without volume so I don't blow anybody's eardrums out with the fills. All right, there's like no value left in this thing, but I can only roll it out just so far. So let's roll this to 44 DTE. And see if I can get a fill here. And this is like way out into 5. This is way out into 5 delta territory. Why didn't that fill? All right, I think I'm lagging out. All right, didn't get a fill, so I'm just gonna have to keep putting this back in for a smaller position or smaller credit. And unfortunately, the bid-ask spreads are not terribly tight out this far. This should fill. There we go. All right, let's ungroup and regroup. This is PMCC 2. And you can see this is capturing precious little premium because I had bought this long call back when strategy was probably at 250, 270 a share. And so just 105 days ago, this $200 strike seemed extremely safe. Like, oh yeah, this is easy peasy value zone, right? The price had already crashed 50%, so buy the dip, right? There's no safe strikes. There's no safe strikes, unfortunately. All right, this one's been open for 12 days as well, but it's still got plenty of extrinsic value left. It's even got more than I sold it for, so I will definitely try to hold this on for another 7 to 10 days. And this one, same situation. It's only been on for a week. It's actually the extrinsic value is growing because strategy's price has gone up a little bit. The cash secured puts ones, this is getting close to being ready to roll. It's less than half of what I sold it for. So let's just see what would happen. If I try to roll this out 2 weeks to the same strike, I can get a tiny credit. So I'm not really in any hurry to do that. Holding on to this for another week is no big deal. This one's only been on for 8 days. Yeah, same deal here. So just one position that needed a little bit of a tweak because there wasn't enough extrinsic value left in that short call to even just bother with. All right, Tesla. So this is the one that I decided to try something new. And Tesla has option expirations that are 3 times a week now, which is pretty crazy. And so I'm just going to keep rolling this from week to week. It's only got it's only got $40 left on it, but that's for one trading day. If I prorated that out for 5 trading days, that'd be at $200 for the week, which is like 0.5%. So this is fine. I could roll the strikes down for a credit, right? If I wanted to roll to the expected move, I could like quadruple my credit. But if we, you know what, maybe I will do this. This could increase my credit. Even if I just go to 422.5, it's going to double my credit. And I only cut my upside by, what, $5? $5 a share? Sure, why not? This is going to be the whole point of this strategy anyway, is just maximizing the premium generation. And I mean, that was only like $50 or whatever, but it did, every little bit that I can use my Tesla position to chip away at my margin use is going to be a win for my personal situation. So I actually don't hate that. I've got the synthetic covered call set up down here. There's a good amount of extrinsic value, so it's only been on 11 days, so I'll just hold on to this as well. And let's check Cypher. So Cypher kind of crashed. I don't know, $1 or $2 a share over the last week. And other exchanges could be different, but like selling a cash secured put is so crazy. Like there's almost as much of a credit as there is the reduced buying power. So I'm really enjoying. I don't know why the margin algorithm is calculating it this way. I actually signed up for a seminar, so I'm gonna have to fast track the rest of this. But in 15 minutes, I'm gonna attend a Tasty Trade online seminar talking about margin. So I will take some notes and report back whatever I learn. Maybe I'll talk about that tomorrow. I don't know if there's going to be any like Q&A allowed for this thing. I'm kind of doubting it. I don't know how many people are going to be attending this seminar. I don't know if it's going to be interactive at all. But just for example, selling a cash secured put at the expected move is even different than at other spots. So this is like a 10-to-1 ratio. You got to put up $200 to collect $20. But at the 13 strike, you only have to put up $146 to collect $120. That's almost 1-to-1. That's like 5 to 6, 4 to 5 ratio instead of like a 5 to 4 ratio instead of a 10-to-1 ratio. This is closer to at the money, but a similar ratio. In general, I don't like to sell near at the money cash secured puts 45 DTE out. That's because of the theta acceleration curve that starts to accelerate at 45 DTE is for out of the money options. So selling an in the money option, for me personally, I prefer to sell near at the monies close to expiration. you'd have to put up about a 5-to-1 ratio to collect a ton of premium at the money. And there's more risk, of course, of Cypher going down to $10 a share and you're being, down 30% on your position. So there's a lot of things to kind of compare, and everything is a trade-off. So do you want to sell near at the money cash secured puts, collect a ton of premium, but risk, the price going down and maybe getting stuck bag holding? But you're willing to make that risk to collect a bunch of premium. But then on top of that decision is how much buying power is that going to reduce to get that credit? Going out to 45 days to expiration, optimal from a mechanical standpoint would be to sell something out of the money. But going too far out of the money is not collecting much premium. You still got to put up $200 to collect 20. So that's almost like a 10-to-1 ratio. But if you massage this a little bit and get to the 13 strike, now you're only having to put up $140 to collect 120. And then it starts to, it's still around the same, 200, you have to put up 270 to collect 210. But the closer you get to at the money is kind of making this mechanically less efficient, because at the money strikes, in my view, are more efficient for weeklies. Now, of course, if the price, I'm always going to be bullish on the price of Bitcoin. So I'm always going to be somewhat bullish on strategy, the mining stocks, etc. And so if the price does go up, then this 15 could become out of the money and maybe you get the benefit of both. But for the most part, I would be kind of like looking for the lowest strike I can get that still has a good mix of credit to buying power reduction. Which is why I think mine, yeah. So these are already a week old, but that's why I selected the 13. This seemed to be kind of the sweet spot for this particular position. It was like $2 to $4 out of the money, and at 45 DTE. But still, there's no perfect strike. There's no perfect option. There's no perfect delta necessarily, in my opinion. It's just a series of trade-offs. What are you willing to give up to get something that you want? That's the way I look at this whole game. All right, with the IRA, iron tanked a little bit, but not too much, not like Cypher did. So yeah, nothing to do here but just sit and collect premium. This Tesla position was out to 45 DTE. Plenty of extrinsic value here. I did buy some SATA in this account on the dip with my buying power. That is working out pretty well. So this is up about $6 a share. 13 shares. I mean, that's not like, oh my God, that's a 10x or anything. But in my opinion, anytime Stretch or SATA falls below par, it's coming back, right? So the market could bring it back on its own, but if it doesn't happen organically, the company's just going to increase the interest rate and pump this number back up. Like, that's the whole entire fucking game for these companies. So if they can't get their preferred in the range that they can ATM it, then the whole game is lost anyway. So I have no worries whatsoever that these companies won't do everything in their power to get this back up. You know, for SATA, that would be between 95 and 105, and for Stretch to be between 99 and 101. They will move heaven and earth to make that happen. So for this to fall down to $87 a share was like a no-brainer kind of thing. To just, you know, maybe this takes a couple of months or whatever, but just scalp a little couple percents here. And now that it's back up a little bit, like I don't really care about collecting the interest. If there's something that I want to use this money for, then I will do it, right? It's not like, oh, I have to pay attention to the ex-dividend date and hold this for another 2 weeks to get my 1% or whatever the hell it's going to be. If I do hodl it that long, you know, great. I'm not going to turn my nose up at the 1% for the month, but this is just storing dry powder for me to do other things with. So I could come and I could get like $1,300 to do something else with, and I could easily, if I sell it on the covered call and collect another 50 cents, what's the cash secured put on this going to cost me? I could go out to 45 DTE, easy peasy, and sell a cash secured put here. So that may be worth doing. What's my balance? 80 bucks. Let's see if there's anything else I need to do first. Or I could be a degenerate and come out here and grab some more attack the tail stuff. Let's see, is this ready to roll? Not quite. So iron done, Tesla done, strategy's done. Okay, so do I want to take my little quick scalp here and use this money on a new cipher position? I kind of like that because cipher is down. So if my SATA position up and my cipher position is down, it makes sense to use that as kind of a pairs trade and rebalance. All right, so thank you, SATA, for the 60 bucks. I appreciate it. So it's going to give me 1,300. So that's almost, that's pretty perfect, really. So now if I sell the 13 strike, you know what? I wonder if this is going to let me, I wonder if they'll let me buy the 100 shares and sell the covered call in one shot. I would actually prefer to do that. So if I buy 100 shares, I'm going to be $270 short. No, that's not going to cut it. Because I'd have to, I could go out to, yeah, that's not going to quite cut it. All right. I think it's going to leave me with 100 bucks. Yeah, 130 bucks. The only reason I don't like selling cash secured puts in my IRA is because it looks like I have buying power and I don't. And because of privacy, I have my account numbers hidden. And so it's also hiding my option buying power, but I'm assuming this would say 130 bucks. So it makes the trading a little bit annoying. So I just kind of have to keep a mental note that I don't have $1,430 in buying power. I've got 1,430 minus 1,300. But anyway, that's just an example of what I personally use the preferreds for as dry powder for buying opportunities. This one, I had to get a little bit sneaky. So before I started recording, I actually did sell 2 shares of SATA while I had all of this stuff uncovered, because it said my option buying power was like negative $100 and something. And I just didn't want to deal with margin emails or having to get a margin call. So I did peel off a couple of shares of SATA to give this account a little bit of breathing room. And it probably happened because of Cypher dropping 5% over the last couple of days or whatever. I'm guessing the algorithm considers these more risky now. So that was a little bit of a defensive move on my part. It doesn't look like I need to do anything else here. Another week or so to roll this one, and another couple of weeks to roll this one. What's up, Tony? Anybody going to Strategy World in a couple of weeks? Am I going to see anybody there? I should probably be shilling the tickets and the links and stuff. I guess I'm a bad influencer. All right, this expires in 3 days. God, that reminds me, this wolf position, I got to get with my brother-in-law. We need to roll this out. There's only 10 days left on this thing, only $30 left of extrinsic value. Let me look and see. Okay, he's not working today. I'll grab him before the market closes. Oh yeah, I took this strive position, so this is working out well so far. And I've still got a Cypher call. Sold this for 90. It's worth 30. I could roll this down to like the 1650 or the 1650 strike. But I mean, this is almost 2% premium left for the rest of the week, so I don't need to roll that down. Cypher. This one is cutting it close. Usually I roll the wolf and the Cypher position together because they're usually going up and down with Bitcoin's price together, and just, rolling them at the same time is convenient. But still might have to roll this. I'm not going to do it because I'm going to wait to do it with my brother-in-law. But if we rolled this out to the same strike, or even, I don't want to roll it to at the money because that would be for a debit, right? Oh no, that would be for that would still be for a credit. So I could give myself a little bit of breathing room on the strike and still capture a credit. If I roll it out to the same strike, that's even a larger credit. Either way, this is going to be pretty easy to find a legit strike for a credit. I mean, I could even go as low as 1450 for almost no credit, but I give myself a bigger discount if Cypher goes down. Probably won't, though. I probably will just go just out of the money or keep the 16 strike. But I'll talk about it tomorrow or the next day, whenever this happens. $10 of buying power, so nothing really. I don't need to rush out to spend any monies. Again, I've got 3 shares of SATA. So once I stack enough shares to actually take a new position, then I will spend that dry powder. and collect dividends every month until that happens. Tesla is really not cooperating with this put credit spreads. Tesla. Okay, so the one thing that I am a little bit worried about Tesla, not long term, nothing to do with their thesis. Well, actually, two concerns. One is that if they merge with SpaceX, which already merged with XAI, in the short term, investors may not like this. I think long term, SpaceX is a fucking money printer. And just like data centers in space and reusable rockets to the moon and to fucking Mars. Like, people my age, like, this is the sci-fi type shit that we thought we were going to get. Like, by my age, I thought we were going to have Jetsons flying cars and shit. And so this is kind of like what I've been waiting for my whole life, is for this to become a reality. But in the short term, if it's perceived that Tesla is funding some of these products, in the short term, the market could get a little bit of heartburn around that kind of announcement. I think long term, it's bullish as fuck. But, who knows how the market's going to react to something like that happening. And I don't want to say it's inevitable, but it does seem like a no-brainer. A lot of times people do mergers and acquisitions and like, it just doesn't make any sense. But it does in this case, I think, right? So in the short term, does this kind of downward trend continue or even crash temporarily on some announcement like that? Maybe. And the only other thing that I'm a little bit worried about is the financial control system that's dominated for 1,000 years looks like it may be rolling over to a technocrat control system. And it seems like Elon is on the right side of this to a certain extent, because he bought X and made it, a place for free speech. And the only glimmer of hope is that, Elon did buy some Bitcoin with Tesla. It was actually a substantial amount. That gives me a little bit of hope. But the one thing that did give me a little bit of pause for, Elon being, what is it? What is it when you put one people on your team on the other side, and they're the, 2:00. I got to join that seminar. Is he can be controlled opposition potentially. So is when he said we need government regulations on AI, because it's like, okay, government is the worst thing that's ever been created. It's the worst of the control system, and you want the control system to be regulating AI. I'm like, okay, that's a recipe for disaster. So anyway, with all that being said, I got to jump over to this seminar.